From your local election headquarters, this is Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Welcome back. You heard earlier in the show that the City of Abilene is no longer accepting plastic or glass at recycle centers. We wanted to find out more, so we went to City Hall to talk about it.
What's happened is we have a couple of products that were included as part of Abilene's recycling program. Those were glass and plastics. The plastic portion, the reason the decision has been made to no longer recycle or collect recyclable plastics is that we don't have a market. We don't have a third party that is willing to be able to take the material from us where they can then pass it on to a third party to introduce it into a reuse into other products. Our recycler right now has indicated that they do not have that third party available. Therefore, there is no option for them to take the material. If they were to take it, they basically would be landfilling that material at a greater cost than already what Abilene has because of our volume and our reduced rate. So that's sort of what unfortunately is occurring as far as with plastics. We're going to suspend that operation indefinitely, all right, and unless market conditions should change. You know, should things change as far as within the region where there may be an opportunity to bring that back, that's an opportunity. But right now, there is no third party. Regarding glass...
Well, real quick, on plastics, the market has dried up on that, like you said. So, and part of that is China not accepting these large containers of recyclables anymore, right?
Right. What's happened is, I want to say the international market, the U.S. or North American market has eventually reached Abilene. What has occurred is that those other countries throughout the world have indicated that they're no longer willing to accept certain types of products, be it as far as that they're commingled or even just accept them in general, and they've dropped that cost substantially of what they used to pay for that recyclable product. That has eventually worked itself to North America, to the United States, to various regions within the United States that do not have, I want to say, third-party operations that will retake those materials that have been collected and been recycled and been able to take those and reintroduce them into the market. A good example is you look at New England states. There's a number of operations there that they've got paper mill areas that basically they take the recyclable papers and cardboard and they reintroduce it into the market. No, it's not virgin material, but they have found opportunities where they can reintroduce that. Unfortunately, here in Texas, particularly in the Abilene region, we don't have that opportunity right now. And so, even so, we're seeing that we used to be able to deliver that cardboard at a cost where we would receive monies for cardboard. It now where we used to deliver that cardboard for free, we now are being asked that we have to pay for them to be able to take the cardboard. So the economic pendulum has shifted where now we're having to pay to get rid of that material.
I understand that is how it used to be with plastic, where the third party would pay the city of Abilene for the plastic, and then it became you guys delivering it for free, and then now to not taking it at all.
They're not able to take it at all because they do not have a as far as a third party provider to be able to handle it. They do have a third party that will handle the cardboard, paper, and the miscellaneous metals. The city of Abilene is going to continue with our tree and brush center operation. So we are continuing as far as with some of the recycling operations, but unfortunately economics have made it where, as well as no market available, have made it where we have had to make a change. Now to maybe cover the glass portion a bit, that piece is being, we're looking at suspending that temporarily.
Because that was all in-house, really.
Right. So what had occurred is that on an annual basis, Abilene used to collect roughly between 150 and 200 tons of glass annually.
By the way, how much annually did we collect in plastic? Do you know that?
About 130 tons annually.
Annually in plastic.
Right.
Okay.
So we put that in perspective. Solid waste materials that go to the landfill, we annually collect about 115,000 tons. So it's a very small percentage of materials that are actually pulled out of the waste stream, both in plastics as well as in glass, that were pulled out of the ultimate landfill waste stream.
And then, so back to glass. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's all right. So glass, we're recommending and we're moving forward with suspending that temporarily. We have been asked by the City Council to gather some additional information. We do have some financial information that we've been able to look at as far as what would it take to be able to run this operation. The unfortunate thing with it is a new glass crushing unit that has a cost of around $115,000 to $120,000 for that unit. We deal with a small volume of glass that we would crush on an annual basis. Again, it comes down to economics. Are you willing to be able to pay for that operation that would cost roughly between $15,000 and $20,000 a year to crush that glass, or are you willing to landfill it at a cost of, say, less than $5,000? That's sort of an economic question and decision that needs to be made, versus I call it the recycling, as far as aspect of feeling good that you're pulling that material out in the environment. The other piece of that equation is we got to make sure that are we going to have a third party, a sustainable third party, that is going to be able to take that glass product off of our hands when it's generated. We cannot guarantee how much glass we collect on a, say, month-per-month basis. We do know that in the past, annually, total, it was around 150 to 200 tons. Again, remember, glass is very heavy, so that volume of glass is even very small.
And when we come back here on Big Country Politics, we hear from a recycling company about what it expects in the future. We're back in 2 minutes right here on Big Country Politics.